A big hello to everyone that has joined us today, and welcome to the Power Platform Community User Group for January 2022. I hope everyone has had a great new year and keeping safe from our never-ending COVID situation. Please note that the webinar is being recorded and will be available after the event on the User Group YouTube channel. If you don't want to be recorded, you need to drop off the meeting now, please. Now, to kick us off, let's see where everyone is from. Please type into the chat where you're from so we know where you are dialing in from. So let's have a look. We've got a couple of people online here. Robert's in Sydney, Darren's in Melbourne. I'm in Melbourne too, Darren. But I hope you're safe because there's a few our cases are going up every day, and Phil's out in the country, down in Warragul, southeast Gippsland, lovely place. And Yeoman in Sydney as well. All right. Thank you, everyone. So today's webinar is proudly presented by the Power Platform Community User Group. We've partnered with Microsoft to create this group as we are passionate about the Power Platform, and we're keen to increase and share our knowledge while keeping up to date with all of the latest information. I feel the user group is the perfect platform to achieve these goals, and I encourage everyone on the call to join the group and participate in the conversations. For any questions or follow-up after the event, please post them into the user group discussion, as we're all in there daily checking out the feed. Today's agenda consists of a quick introduction about our presenters, leading into a discussion reviewing 2021 and predicting 2022. And I wish everyone good luck with all of their predictions. If time permits, I'll take questions from the floor. Today's presenters are Bill Mallett, Yeoman Yeo, and myself, Andrew Gallagher. We've also got a special guest today, Robert Crane from CAA Ops, who will join us in today's conversation. We're all keen in creating Microsoft 365 modern workplace, and the presenters use the Power Platform to automate and streamline business processes. We've also done many Microsoft certifications and happy to answer any queries you may have on the certification process. So without further ado, let's move on to our discussion. And Bill's going to kick us off about model-driven app designer growth in 2021.
Thanks, Andrew. And before we actually get started, we're happy to take questions from the floor as well, or comments. If you've got some comment on where thing, just put up your hand or put something in the chat as well, so that we can cater for make it a real discussion with the whole user group online this morning. So I want to talk about the Power Apps, and one important thing that I discovered in 2021 that is important. So I'm just going to share my screen to make it easier to describe this. And what it was is the preview view in model-driven apps. So just in case you're not sure how to get to model-driven apps, we click on Power Apps in our list of all our apps. And what we get is a homepage that allows us to quite quickly get into building an app straight away, and also has some learning down the bottom. If you click on Create, you'll notice that you also get a whole lot of templates that can help you get started very quickly. But let's actually go to the apps that I have, and I'm going to open Edit for Asset and Tracking Model-Driven App. And this is the old view of the app. Now, this allows you to do sort of no-code type coding of this app, but it doesn't give you a very good view of the way it actually looks. So let's close that one and show us how we actually go to the new preview view, and we'll have a quick look. So instead of just clicking on edit, you've got to go over and say edit in preview. But what you get now is, and this came out in 2021, is an actual view of your app as you are going. And you can just click through the different parts of the app and see the way it is. It even shows the test data as it is. And you'll notice over to the left, you get an idea of things. If I click on collections and open it up, you can see the collection view, which is what I'm currently looking at, but I can also click on the form to see what form will come up when I'm editing as well. And over to the left, just another example of how you quickly get around your app and see exactly how it works. You can see that this is helps us rearrange our things. So we can see main, that's the whole area. And then we've got a subheading main, which matches here. We can see we can order our records and access to our records by just clicking on the dots and moving them up or down. So it's much more easy way to see exactly what you're actually doing with your model-driven app than the past classical view. And I've been fortunate enough to mainly use this new view in my creations of model-driven apps, except for the odd occasion when you have to go back to the classical view. So I wonder if anyone else would like to add some points to this or their own use, perhaps.
As you just mentioned there, Bill, yeah, the new view or the new model-driven app is basically brought across a lot of the features that the old classic view had. So it is as you say, it is in the old days we were sort of going back to the classic view just to be able to do a couple of things. Now it's all inbuilt into the one, and I think most of the features, I think there's still a couple still back there, but most of the features are all across, which is making our development times so much easier.
Yeah, and any others?
Yeah, sure. I just like how we're seeing a lot of these search bars starting to appear, just like we do in all the other aspects of the Power Platform for Microsoft 365, is that it allows us to do more searching with these solutions for either data that we've already entered, especially if we've got a long-running Power App that's got a lot of data in it. And it just makes it so much more friendlier for users and administrators and managers to find data within all of the masses of data being collected.
Indeed. And as Darren has just pointed out in the chat, it's actually getting very similar to the Canvas app build type, which, is indeed making everything look the same, feel the same. And, for the novice developers out there, it's definitely making things easier for them.
Yeah, and if you notice that opening page I've got on my app, that is actually a Canvas app page. So they're actually starting to integrate together. You can see mine's fairly simple. It's just displaying some items, but that's one of the things to look forward to next year is the further integration of Canvas app type abilities inside of your model-driven apps.
That is one thing I haven't done yet. I have seemed to keep my model and Canvas apps separate, so it's good to see there that integration, bringing the Canvas app into it. So Bill, do you start with the model-driven app and then integrate the Canvas app in, or vice versa?
Yeah, so I started with the model-driven app, and you basically, when you go to integrate a Canvas app page, you get up the Canvas app editor, and you basically create a page that you can then include inside your model-driven app.
Fantastic. So that'll actually make, I suppose, to a degree, the model-driven apps look a lot prettier rather than just looking a bit like a data set and some buttons and so forth. So that's a nice one to see.
Yeah.
Now, I've been having a look at the Power Automate desktop. I was just wondering, people out there, who's been using the Power Automate desktop? Anyone?
Well, I've had to play with it, and I find it's actually quite intuitive with all the wizards and all the various options they're being doing. What about you, Bill?
Yeah, well, I've actually, it was one of the first things I actually made use of, helping a friend of mine who's a gardener actually automate his invoicing system using Automate Desktop.
So if you weren't aware, the Power Automate Desktop, it brings the power of the automation capability onto your desktop, and it's inbuilt into Windows 11. But if you do a search for Power Automate Desktop, as you can see on the screen there, I've done in Google, you can click on the link which takes you to the Microsoft Power Automate Desktop there, and then simply click the Start Free button. And that takes you across to Docs, where you can download the Power Automate Desktop onto your Windows 10 computer for free. Now, it's vitally important that you keep that up to date, because there's always plenty of updates coming out all of the time. I know there's like a new startup experience for it, save as functionality, copy and paste. Now, if you're still on the June, July, or even the October edition of Power Automate Desktop, you won't have those features. So very important to keep that up to date moving forward. And it's a great utility to basically automate the inserting of data into legacy applications, or even into CRM systems or websites that don't have an export function. You can record what you're doing and repeat that process over and over again.
Yeah, and I used it, Andrew, for the invoicing system because I wanted to do some things in Excel that the cloud version of the connector didn't currently do. So I was able to go out into the desktop and record the steps required to do those things, and then bring it back into the cloud again to do the rest of the steps.
Yeah, so I've just put on the screen just what the Power Automate Desktop looks. That's looks a bit basic, but basically what you're doing is you're creating a flow, but it's different to the normal Power Automate flow. It's basically like a macro where you're recording a whole lot of steps. So it copies. Let me just create one here, so I can create one here. It basically records a whole lot of steps that you do on your desktop over and over again, and when you run that, it runs through that process and does that automatically for you or at a scheduled time.
We have a question from Robert. He's got his hand up.
Andrew, question is, when you go to update the desktop, is it a complete download, or do you update it from inside the application itself?
So with Windows 11, because it's inbuilt, Windows updates will actually keep that up to date for you. In Windows 10, you need to actually tick to update other Microsoft products rather than just the Windows product, and then the updates will keep it up to date. Otherwise, you can just go to the site, download it. You don't need to uninstall it. You can just install it over the top to keep it up to date.
And how often do you suggest you update? Is it once a week, once a month, once 6 months? How often should it be?
I minimum would be checking once a month. Yeah, just to make sure, especially if you're sort of using it and you're expecting it to do something, and you're not seeing a feature that you've seen on the Microsoft sites, that definitely be the first thing to do.
Here's the $64 million question. Can you use Power Automate Desktop to automate the updating of itself?
Of course you can. You can, but I would simply turn on your Windows updates to check for other Microsoft products to keep it up to date, and then I'm pretty confident that your system will stay up to date.
Yeah, I've been doing that, Andrew, and it probably has updates more than once a month. But it does prompt you and ask you if you want to do the update.
Yeah, So for those who want to know, I'm just going to share the screen and take over for a second. There is a setting within Power Automate Desktop. If you go to Settings, there's a check for updates button. And of course, the tick box to show update notifications. So it will prompt you, if you tick that, every so often to update. And I pretty much haven't missed an update thanks to doing that. So that also helps without just going straight to the website and grabbing a new version or something like that. So don't forget to do that when you're using Power Automate Desktop. So
Perfect.
the other thing is, this is one useful routine I actually wrote in about Power Automate Desktop because I got sick and tired of, I live in Teams, probably like a lot of you, and because it's more or less like a browser in the desktop client, occasionally it does show problems like crashes or you can't switch between teams often quick enough. So what I end up doing, I actually wrote a Power Automate Desktop to actually, like with Internet Explorer, just clear the cache. Now you can do it manually by going to the folder where the cache is in the computer and actually clear it out manually, but that's boring and I don't want to go find a folder all the time. So I wrote a routine. So basically you just run this and it'll actually prompt you to actually run and tell you, oh, we're about to clear the cache, so please shut down Teams, which we'll actually do, and then we'll just do it. So it's really useful to restart my Teams just by running a very simple Teams cache reset thing just to prove that, well, it sort of works in Power Automate Desktop. So it's very useful for those of you who use Teams exclusively, which we're seeing now a lot more, even with the Power Platform, where Teams is becoming more integrated.
Thanks. I think Robert's got a question.
That's a great, yeah, I was going to say, that's a great example, Yeoman. Robert, you got a question there?
Yeah, so let's say that, I really like Yeoman's implementation of, clearing the team's cache. Can he, firstly move that to another one of his machines? Is there an export and import in his own environment? And then is there an export and import option for people that are outside his environment? So could he put it on a website, download this, and somebody else could import it and then have that same functionality?
It's a good question. I'm still yet to figure that one out. And I'd really like to do that. Like you say, I have multiple machines that I want to do this on, and so I'm going to have to do a bit more work to figure that question.
I think in regards to that process that he's doing, it needs to run on the desktop that you want the cache cleared on. But you can definitely export your Power Automate desktops or do a save as and put that onto multiple computers.
On those three dots, just pull those three dots down, Yeoman. Is there an export there?
There isn't, because that was the first place I looked.
It's create a copy though, so how does
that creates a duplicate within this instance? So basically you create a copy like that, and it'll actually just slot in another flow within my existing instance. As you can see, that's not an export to me.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's one of the things that I'd like to explore a little more with this.
I was going to say, Robert, if you don't mind, we'll just do some research on that, and we'll post it into the Power Platform community group, our findings on how to export and import that for you.
Sounds good. Thanks for that.
Pleasure.
Robert. One other thing that's now can be done, which might prove very useful, is Microsoft has put something out on how to create your flows to run in virtual machines, and a way to have them fire up and fire and down again when they're not in use, so that you can have a machine that's always available effectively for when you want to run it, if it's a more external type of flow that you want to run. So we might post that one in our discussion group as well, if people are interested.
Sounds good. Have you ever attempted to integrate it in with Teams?
I haven't done it directly, but you can create cloud flows in Teams, which I assume could then actually call out to a desktop one that you've created.
Yeah.
And the key there, once again, is if you've got a machine that's always on that you can run these things on, if it's trying to do something that's general, then that's the ideal solution, I think, rather than on your own machine, which may be trying to do something else at the same time.
Well, they've invested a lot in Windows Power Automate Desktop to this point just to get this far. I can only imagine the broadening horizons in 2022 now that they've integrated into Windows 11, for example. So we may see that export button, for instance, or we may see much more integration with the cloud version. So yeah, I'm looking forward to what they're going to do with this Power Automate Desktop this year.
Sure. Yes, Robert, another question. Robert, you're still on mute.
I would suggest that probably the idea here from Microsoft is they want to upsell you into the back-end cloud version of their RPA, the remote process automation engine. So obviously there's a limitation on what the desktop can do, and then when you want to start sharing or pushing it out to multiple people, then you have to upgrade to that sort of fully back-end license, which is a bit expensive. So to me, that would seem the logic that they're going to take with that.
Fantastic. I've just noticed that David Wanderer has joined us. Welcome, David. If you just want to type into the chat where you're from.
And perhaps we could probably move on to our other topic while we're waiting for David to do that.
So what other improvements in the Power Platform have you seen integrated in with Teams, Bill? Mexico. Welcome along. Well, a long way away from where we are. Hope you're safe and well over there, David. Sorry, Bill, go ahead.
I think Yeoman was going to start talking about Power Virtual Agents, which we did a demonstration on a little bit earlier in a previous webinar.
Yeah, so we've done, if you've attended our previous webinar or seen the recording, that we actually did a whole thing on Power Virtual Agents and how easy it was to implement and start using it from an internal point of view using Teams. So if we were to go to, I think it's here, nope, it was in my virtual machine.
So while Yeoman's looking for that up, oh, you found it?
So basically, as you can see, there's a button that you can now put into for the various Power Platform apps, and just Power Virtual Agents is one of them. So you can see this is based on a chatbot that we built in our last session. But what it is you can start interacting directly with this from within Teams, and anyone can do this through this Power Virtual Agents bot. And so if you remember, you can just start having normal conversations, even from the very beginning of creating a bot where that will just, it will use that AI and natural language queries to help you out. So if it's for laptops, for example, it will actually say, this was built to sell you a laptop, so it can say I'm a business user, and it'll start going through a natural language process. And this is straight out of the box. So as a demo, Microsoft has already put some of this stuff in. As you can see, it's just, this is all within Teams, by the way. So just remember that.
I love how you've integrated that directly in with Teams. You're not running, I know you can run that bot on websites and so forth or directly from the site, but how you've integrated that into Teams is just, one of the great features of moving everything into one platform.
Yeah. So one of the things that they've done is they've actually created a virtual agent solution around helping employees. And that's some of the real power that we're starting to see in Power Virtual Agents. Imagine that you had inside your organization, even if you're a single employee, you could build a bot to help you with a knowledge base of items, for example. But if you had a team or something, you could actually have if you go straight into the beginning of PVA, you can actually see it just fire up and actually say, well, here we have the employee solution. Here we go, employees on chat website. This is something that Microsoft created in 2021. It's just It's just endless about what they're going to do with having an HR bot to do things that you just build straight out of the box. And it helps your employees straight away. And it's all integrated into Teams.
One of the things that I love about the virtual agents is that it's intelligence. Like we've created a whole lot of Microsoft Forms in the past, but with the bot, it only asks the questions that it needs, and as it goes along, it determines what it needs to answer. And if you incorrectly answer it, or you answer your email address in the name, it picks up that it was an email address and then doesn't ask that question. So the intelligence in the virtual agents, I think, is a real powerful tool, and it makes the end user a lot happier than just filling out form after form after form.
Yeah, I think also like one of the issues with using a bot is that it can feel like a bot and sort of like you've got the second-hand support person when you've come to it. But if you think about the way a lot of first level support go, they have to follow the step by step, even if you've answered it already. Yet we now have the ability to create bots that are more intelligent than that actually do keep a record of what you've told them already and don't answer the questions again. And when used internally, they even understand who you are and details about you as well. I think Robert's got a point to make as well.
Robert, you're still on mute.
I keep pushing the button if for some reason it doesn't work. Anyway, my fault. I think the reality is that one of the big benefits also with the bots is it will take audio input. So if you're in the car and you've got your phone on a hands-free as you're supposed to, you could push a button and still interact with the bot just using your voice and voice recognition. So if you needed some sort of information, you don't have to use a type keyboard to do it. You can actually interact with the voice side of it as well.
Well, that was something that I've just learnt there. Thank you. And something for me to test out in 2022. That sounds like a really cool feature. The other one with the bot, it doesn't cost you anything to create these bots. It is billed on a usage or runtime version. So each time it's run, there's a little cost. So it's easy enough to create them and test them in your sites.
In Teams, I believe it's even cheaper if you integrate the bots in Teams. I think Bill was telling me that.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. There's integrations within Teams that you can have to a limit, do a lot of stuff for free now as part of your existing licensing.
What was the other thing that you integrated into Teams? That it was your Power App, wasn't it?
I've integrated Power Apps into Teams and Power BI into Teams now. It's very interesting. And getting more powerful and stronger, because you can set up a whole Dataverse in Teams to run a small model-driven app within Teams as well.
Is that Dataverse then limited, or?
Yeah, so you got a limited size, so it does depend on what you're trying to store. So if you're trying to store pictures, you might hit that size a bit quicker than normal. But if you're only storing normal text type data, it takes a lot of data to hit your gigabyte type limits.
Yep. And I suppose having all of them in Teams, it's just one location that your users have to go to access all of those features.
I mean, if I can show a little bit of that, if you would like, I've actually got a Teams with a showing the integration. But I think Rob's got a question first.
I was going to say, while you're loading
I'll switch
that up,
across it, and we'll get Rob to.
And I've turned off my microphone. Geez, I'm a fast learner. I'm a fast learner, aren't I? Geez, I'm in technology. So what sort of cost, do you want to give people maybe an indication of, what sort of cost there may be for a bot? Is there a cost? Is it a per question, or, what sort of cost maybe they be up for if they're looking to implement the bot side of things?
So you get charged, I'm going on memory here, I think it's per topic, because I do remember that if you get one thing not to do is get your bot to call other bots, because that increases because that is definitely available, but it increases the cost because when it calls another bot, it then becomes another cost. So I think what they recommend, or what I've heard, is that you want to keep it all in the one bot sort of topics to run, and I think it's only a couple of dollars per runtime on the bot.
And do you get any included, or is it billed, from the first, request that you make?
Well, I've been running the trial version, the 30-day trial version on the bot. So I did all my testing in there, so there was no cost to me there. And yeah, once it's been live, I'm still waiting for to be honest, the Azure subscription billing to come through to check it out. But I can definitely find that out and let you know.
Yeah, but you can run to a limit within Teams as part of your Teams licensing effect. It's all part of the one big, I think it's increased to 2 gigabyte limit, but we could probably include the information on that with your answer as well, Andrew.
And this is the great thing for small business is Microsoft are encouraging small business to use Teams. So the more that we can move into Teams, the minimal cost there is. Obviously, as things grow and databases get bigger, you may have to move it over. In a sense, without getting too technical, it's like the old MSDE database that SQL Server used to give you. There was the free 2 gigabyte version. Microsoft are running with the same sort of concept to encourage us to use Teams.
Yep. So what I thought I'd do, Andrew, is I'll show you quickly what we can integrate in Teams already today, and then that might lead us into 2022.
That'd be great.
About what we might like to see further integrated in the future. So on the screen, I have a particular channel, and within this channel, there's an inspections system, I guess you call, because it's more than just one app. But you can see that it's basically set up as tabs along the top of our Teams. And if I click on that tab, it pulls up the app that's connected to that tab. It takes just a little bit, get rid of that message, and here we are. We have the app run within Teams. And you have a couple parts of this part of the app within Teams, but then there's another app, Review Inspections. So right there, ready for you within the Teams environment for doing inspections. We can pull up that app as well, and we see what's going on there. And then we've got our third app for actually doing the inspections, and that pulls up that. And then we'll see that behind all this, there's also tasks. So the task list is also put here within the Teams environment. So you can see how you can build a whole system for the way a team works or particular function works right there within the team environment. Rob, you got a question?
How does that operate on, say, a mobile device? You're obviously doing it on a desktop here. What's the experience like on a mobile device?
Okay, so I haven't run this particular one on a mobile device, but with all Power Apps now, depending on how you develop them, you can get, if you're smart about the way you develop it, you can develop your apps so that the ones that you would want to work on a mobile device will adjust themselves to the size of the screen. I've actually been doing that recently on one that runs on a mobile device, so that it will actually understand the size of the screen that the mobile device you're on and actually adjust its abilities accordingly. So it's very powerful what you can do within the Power Apps to make them run nicely on mobile devices as well.
And it's basically automatic, the rendering and the resizing on the mobile device. Microsoft do that, a lot of that for you to display everything clearly on your device.
Yeah, but you can also use formulas and stuff, which is getting a little bit more technical to say, if you've got a long mobile device like I have with the Note, I can make the list use the whole length of the mobile device and see more on my screen rather than just simply expanding to fit the screen. So It's quite powerful in doing that, and that's how you can also make a desktop view of it show even more, because it then understands that it can fit more data on that desktop. And so instead of showing you a little mobile view on your desktop, it can actually make use of the whole desktop for you.
And it automatically does that, doesn't it, Bill?
Well, you've got to decide when you're building it whether you want it to just expand to fit the set size, or whether you want to make use of the power of understanding what the size of the screen is. So it's kind of up to you. And so it is getting into a few little more technical things that we can perhaps post something on for people to see how that works. But it is quite powerful what's able to do.
Cool.
Maybe it's one of the things we might have to do for 2022 to show how it looks on mobiles and how we're more integrated into the projects we're doing.
Definitely. And if any of the viewers, have any ideas or want to see something in particular, please don't hesitate to share either in the chat or in our community group what you want to see going forward. And yeah, we'll best endeavour to research and do a presentation on that for you. Now, Yeoman, I hear there's some cool features coming to Power BI.
Oh, look, they've done so much with Power BI. So what they've done is not only have they enhanced what you find in Power BI desktop, the stuff that even we demoed earlier last year was quite exciting, because we ended up with good little Power BI reports, and they keep enhancing things like I can't show you here, but they're putting things like spark lines. So on your little charts, you can actually what they will be doing is creating little mini charts to show trends on particular line items within the reports. So they just keep enhancing little things here and there.
Yeah, I mean, that's the kind of thing that you see on a lot of monitoring reports and stuff, isn't it? Where you've got the data and then you've got this mini little graph next to it, so you can very quickly see the trending of that data. It's a small graph, you can't see the actual values, but it gives you an idea of trending very quickly.
Yeah, so I aim to test it out, these little spark lines, once I get more proficient with Power BI. I mean, we built these in through guidance. There's a lot of guidance out there on Power BI, because it's such a great big world, because what everyone wants to do, small business, large businesses, grab all their data, whether it's, say, Excel workbook to SQL Server, or even some other data sources from the world, and just plug it into something and create a lovely looking dashboard that either as a manager or as you want to show a customer, you can actually make something look something like this, basically. And to top that all off, if we're coming back to Teams, as you know, we can actually see that, there you go, I'm in Teams. I can actually fire up and add Power BI to a channel, or I can actually use the Power BI as an app and start going through, and the world's your oyster. You can actually do things and have meetings and teams discussing the exact same reports and stuff. Get insights, chat, export. So you can export now to PowerPoint and PDF. So everyone knows about PowerPoint and PDF. Or you need a Power BI or sections of Power BI reports put into things like a PowerPoint presentation. It's just real. This is the stuff that started rolling out now. So, and this, I can only imagine what else they've got in store for 2022 with Power BI.
Well, it's amazing how Power BI can turn boring data into a beautiful story and displaying reports and dashboards. Is anyone else out there been using Power BI that's on the call? Just stick your hand up if you have.
I've been using it quite a lot, Andrew. The other interesting thing about Power BI, apart from the fact that you can use it to output nice graphs and dashboards and stuff, is it is also a very handy tool for cleaning up your data or transferring data from one system to another, particularly if you're bringing it inside the Power platform, because it has the ability to adjust data and create new columns as you feed the data in, and then you can, of course, you use the power of Power BI to filter your data and decide exactly what you want to output for taking further to the next system. And you can do all this kind of stuff without having any impact on your input data or your output data, which is quite important, because you can fiddle around and get it right and not be worried about the fact that you might be mucking up something in the existing data, or sort of experimenting with how it loads into the new system based on your changes, which many systems require you to do in order to see that you've got it right. You can pretty much be confident you got it right just by using Power BI in the intermediate stage. So particularly if you've got something a little bit complex to do, if you're transferring from one system to another, I think it's very powerful tool, and getting more and more powerful as we go along, as they add new visualizations and stuff like that, like the one we showed in the demo with maps. They're adding other new features as well into that space. So exciting to see what we get into the future.
I've also seen that I know we've always been able to put the Power BI reports into our Power Apps, but it's also got this new integration into PowerPoint. So like our PowerPoint presentation that we have here for our webinar, we can integrate those Power BI reports, live reports, directly into PowerPoint.
That sounds like an exciting feature. You could be doing a demo and having your ticker tape go across the screen or something inside your PowerPoint, or live updates of data. Imagine showing what's happening inside your business and actually being able to show live data in a meeting. That would be pretty cool, wouldn't it? Without having to go outside of your PowerPoint slide, that integration, which is a big thing with what to look forward to, because I'm a big believer in, you can't always pick the best tools. What you really need is the most integrated tools, because that's where things go wrong. And Microsoft is doing all that integration for us and providing the tools that are quite exciting to use at the same time. So it's an exciting space to look forward to.
Well, it's definitely a big mover by Microsoft. I mean, we're giving the example here of Power BI, but you can see on all of the Power Platform products where Microsoft is just improving functionality literally every month, and it's actually quite exciting using the tools and finding these new features. And I see a lot of chat of what can be put into it, and Microsoft are definitely listening to that chat and improving all of the products. Now, one of the products that I really want to get into in 2022, I started with it a little bit in 2021, which is the AI and or the artificial intelligence, mainly more on the form processing. Let me just bring up my screen here. I think I've got the right screen there. So within the Power Apps platform, you can see there the AI builder and a whole lot of modules that Microsoft have created that you can follow. The one that I like and the one that I've been using the most is the form processing one, where I receive basically sales orders or invoices or purchase orders in via email, and you can actually specify in that. It doesn't have to be a separate mailbox, even though that's totally up to you. But you can get the email, get it to pick up a particular type of attachment, PDF attachment with a particular name from a particular customer, and grab the information from that PDF and then use that data as you see fit, whether you want to put it into a Power BI report, or as I did, I used the Power Automate desktop to put it into a legacy CRM system. So I've been using that. I want to use it a lot more in 2022. I'm still trying to work out the exact way that it invoices or bills, because it is done on a credit basis. And there's a $50 license that gives you 5,000 credits, but I'm yet to determine how many credits one of my invoices is used. So whether that is on fields or invoice type, number of pages, I'm yet to determine to do that, but it is one of my goals for 2022 to work that out. And then the next thing that is the prediction. Is from that is predicting and analyzing, you know, how many purchase orders we've received last month, and predicting for small business, you know, how busy, you know, their busy periods coming up, and what they can do about that.
Yeah, that the power of this, and cost notwithstanding, Andrew, is like if you are a really small business or a fairly small business, the chances are you have experts in certain areas, and they're the only one that knows about is able to analyze the data and do that kind of work potentially for you in many cases. So and hiring a second person with that capability is probably outside the realms of what you can afford, but this may just bring that inside the realms of what you're able to do by expanding that particular role, by getting them to help with producing these kind of prediction engines for you.
Definitely, and like, people might see this as a, you know, really large commercial type thing, but it truly is available to small business, and the feature set such as sentiment analysis or language detection, you know, if you've got a Microsoft form or emails receiving feedback, you can use that analysis to determine whether they're happy or unhappy customers, and feed that directly into a report without spending hours and hours. It just basically is instantly created for you once you've set that up. And as you can see here, getting back onto the screen that I've got up here, you can see here the templates that Microsoft has already created. So see the invoice processing. You can manually do it with the form processing up here, but you can easily just click on the invoice processing, and it'll run you through a wizard, allow you to import your invoices, and step you along all of the way.
Yeah, so pretty good. And what I notice is, it appears from the Microsoft plans for the future and stuff, they are looking at ways to bring the costs of using these kind of tools down to the level where small business can definitely find value. Like even with the invoice processing, they're planning to make it so that you can tell at which page of a document to look for the actual data on, so that you're not paying for scanning a 10-page document if the data is only on one page or something like that. So it's very interesting to see how Microsoft definitely focused on making these kind of tools more available to even small businesses.
And for about $50 Australian dollars, you get 5,000 credits. And like you can see here, all tenants will come with a 30-day trial, which basically that you can extend it if you haven't finished your testing. So it's get into it, have a look, run through it, definitely. It's now
I like that credits idea, because it's, at least you'll be out. There must be some way that you can watch the rundown of those credits as you start using them. And if it's only $50, well, we're almost into this gamification almost model where you're just using up credits for probably other aspects as well.
100%. There is a report. I'm still working through the report. I did some testing on it. I'm still yet to complete that testing, but no, it's definitely affordable for small business use.
Yeah, the issue, Andrew, I think you've found, and I found with trying to investigate it, is that the calculation tools that Microsoft provides to try and work these things out, it doesn't seem to handle this smaller volume type of calculation that we're trying to do. So it's going to take us a little bit of actual investigation to work it out. So I'm looking forward to perhaps working some of these things out so that we can present a view for small businesses on how you can make use of the different licensing that's available, especially in this space.
For sure. I mean, last year that we saw Microsoft reduce or halve the Power Apps pricing, and they also bought in the pay as you go, the Azure type consumption type billing, and obviously there were different circumstances will be, so it'll be interesting to work out which pricing, which licensing to use for different circumstances, and it's something that we're all quite determined to work out and document.
Yeah, I mean, on the same idea, but slightly different. Like even with the Power Apps trial licenses too, they have 30-day trial, but I know in the Power Apps form this year, you're able to extend that trial 2 more times. So you effectively can have a 90-day trial before you have to actually pay for licensing.
Yep. And there's also a lot of, like in Power Automate, that there are the premium paid connectors, but there's also an abundant amount of free connectors that you can use to work with. And I think that flows right through the Power Platform. For what we're doing most of the time is free, and then if you've got the one-off where you want to connect to it like an SQL Server database or something like that, you may have to get that premium connector.
Yeah, and also though I noticed announced last year, Microsoft is making it easier for you to create your own custom connectors, and I know that requires a little bit of programming help, but they're making it very easy to have that programmer turn an API, which is the way you access other systems, into an actual connector that you can use within the Power Platform. So it looks like they're definitely focused on making these things more available to all of us.
For sure. But even if you didn't have the connector, that's where you could actually use your Power Automate desktop to move data into a legacy application or legacy database without doing that. And that's one of the brilliant things about the Power Platform is that you can do things multiple ways, and you can use all of the different tools available to you to work simultaneously together to achieve a goal. Now we're getting close. We've got 5 minutes to go. Just checking to see if anyone has any questions from the floor.
It'd be interesting to know if anyone else has got some key things they're looking forward to this year, even if it's what they hope will come. I'm just looking forward to bigger Teams integration, because I think for small business that's key of where to go. They've also making it easier for Microsoft Access to be transferred across, which is pretty cool as well. I think Robert's put his hand up.
And Robert's worked out how to turn his microphone off as well. So I've learned something from today's webinar. Thank you, gentlemen.
Pleasure.
I would suggest that the big thing is overall is that Microsoft's primary focus, above everything else, is going to be obviously security. But on the other side of the fence is this, low code, no code solution. So, as you've mentioned, many of these tools are going to see significant enhancements. There's going to be more people getting into it. There's more momentum behind it. We're seeing competitors like Amazon also trying to spin up their own service to compete with this. So obviously it's having an impact there as well. Now, the big thing that would be nice, obviously, is this greater integration, more links to, integrations with third-party applications and so on. But I think that there's an interesting dichotomy happening here. There's still that low code, that total thing done in a web interface, but it would be nice for people perhaps like yourselves and myself that are a little bit more professional developers, let's say, wanting to actually be able to, use a a proper, development environment and do all that. So now there is obviously a basic one there, but to actually go in and start writing some code, in a traditional manner may help some of these stuffs roll out. So I'd love to see myself a little bit more emphasis skewed towards the traditional developers so we can fast track these. Now, my experience has been that Power Automate's great. It solves a lot of problems until you need to do something that's a little bit out of the ordinary, then it can become a little bit cumbersome. So overcoming that with being able to get to a bit more low-level code would be fantastic. But there's no doubt that, in the next 12 months, the Power Platform, again, is going to be a major focus and its integration is going to increase. And again, the recommendation is that it's certainly something that everybody, technicians, whatever, need to pay attention to and really look at how and where it can be used to save you time and solve, very common problems that end up chewing up a lot of your time and a lot of your money. So my wish and my prediction is I think we'll see more developer tools. We'll see the continuation and growth of this across the environment, better integrations. And I think in 12 months' time, again, it's just going to be so much further along than we actually anticipate. So that's really what my thinking is at this point in time.
I agree, Rob. I'll be very surprised if we don't see quite a bit of advancement in that area. They've already started many things in GitHub, the idea of more development type life cycles, the idea of providing development environments and the ability to move between environments, which is where solutions come in to a large degree as well. I'd be very surprised if we didn't see a lot of advancement in that area and this year.
Well, that's where the Power Platform is basically bringing the high-level developers and the low-level no-code creators together, and to get, there's been this real separation in the past of those two groups, or from developers, and they've brought them together and developing amazing things. I mean, it really does stagger me. Every month, Microsoft seems to be releasing new connectors to new platforms every month. So it's a great tool that I have to say I really enjoy using every day. Now, we've just created a few useful links and resources that we feel will help you guys in your Power Platform journey. Firstly, at the top there, once again, we've got our user group, followed by specifically selected Microsoft Learn resources that we feel would help beginners, get started in their journey. And then lastly, down at the bottom there, you'll see the Microsoft training days. They're basically Microsoft events that if you run through, it'll give you a brief overview of basically the fundamentals of either Power Apps or Power Automate, Power BI, and when completed, Microsoft will give you an exam voucher to begin your certification journey. As I mentioned earlier, if you've got any questions on certifications, we've all been through the experience, and love to help anyone else out that's trying to do a similar path. At this point, I'd like to thank everyone for attending, especially like to thank our special guest, Robert Crane, and my fellow presenters, Bill and Yeoman, for their input. So before we finish the call, are there any last minute questions or things that people would like to say? No? Okay, that's once again, thank you for attending, everyone, and I'm going to stop the recording now and have a great day.